All right. Last week, I put a question box up on Instagram and I asked you to tell me what's the thing that is keeping you the most stuck in your business? And you did not hold back. So, in the last episode, we got this conversation going and we covered a few of your responses. And this week, we are going to finish them off. So if you feel like you have been working way too hard for way too little, if you feel like you are doing everything that you are supposed to be doing, but the growth, the sales, the momentum, they're still not hitting the way that you know that you're capable of, I promise you the answers in today's episode are going to unlock why. We are talking about raising standards even when we are concerned about our bills being paid. We're talking about high ticket selling with more ease, getting our audience to buy from us and to look at us as the person that they want to buy from. And finally, how to get out of our own way when we feel as if something is blocking us, but we're not sure what. Let's go. Welcome to All In with Allie, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I am so happy you are here. All right. So if you have not listened to the last episode, I highly recommend it. These were some of the best question box responses that I have gotten in a hot minute. I think the day that I put this up, you guys were just ready to rock and roll. So I really, really appreciate that. And like I said in the last episode, if after listening to this, there are some additional questions or topics that you would like to deepen, or maybe for me to do an episode around, you can comment on the YouTube video and I will be more than happy to cover them for you. I am always looking for good podcast topics for you. So please help a girl out, okay? All right, so let's dive right in. So the first question that we're going to dive into today is, how do you actually raise your standards in business when you're still worried about paying the bills? This is relatable. We've all been there. Even when business is going well, obviously we all have this intrinsic goal, this deep-seated concern that our bills are going to be paid and that we're going to be able to stay above water. And if you've ever been in a tough season in business, which, hello, I feel like that's all of us, you know what it feels like to not know if your bills are going to be paid. It's a scary feeling. So we can all relate to this on some level. But the first thing that I want to say is, first and foremost, when it comes to standards, okay, business standards, any standards, life standards, your standards are a bar that you set first and foremost for yourself. And then that will infiltrate people that you allow into your life and how you let them into your life. But first and foremost, these standards are for you. And they're a reflection of your own self-worth. So the way that I like to think about this too, and I think a really good parallel, is in dating. Like, I know there was a season in my life where I had lower standards when it came to the men that I would date. And that was 1,000,000% a reflection at the time of what I thought I was worth. Right? If I thought I was worth a certain caliber of relationship or a person or a certain caliber of how I was being treated, then I would have never entertained anything less. But because I didn't think I was worthy of that, or I didn't think that was possible for me for whatever reason, I lowered that standard and I entertained and tolerated behavior that nowadays I would never in a billion years tolerate. So our businesses are the same. Your standards are what you are willing to tolerate. It's that bar that you are setting across the board for yourself and how you show it, but then also what you allow into your world and into your business. So in my opinion, our concern with paying bills and having a consistent or a certain level of money flow can be and maybe should be separate than our business standards. To me, these are two separate situations. And I think when we allow ourselves to lower the standards out of fear, that actually speaks to a deeper issue that we have with our own self-worth. So again, we can take this back to the dating example. I think it's really easy for somebody when they have a boyfriend or when, whatever the dating situation is, when it's a situation where there's no scarcity to be like, oh yeah, to like judge other people and be like, oh my gosh, how could she tolerate that? I would never. But then the second that roles are reversed and maybe you're single and maybe it feels like the dating pool feels a little lacking in some regards, to then maybe lower our own standards, right? So like that speaks to a different issue. And I say this all the time when it comes to business. Any idiot can feel really good and feel really confident when money is flowing. That's easy. Like in an easier season of business, when things are going our way, of course you're going to feel more confident. Of course you're going to, maybe claim that your standards are high and, you're going to show up in a certain way. But a true testament of character and also testament to one's own self-worth or self-belief is what happens when those results dwindle or when things wobble a bit or when, it's a wave in business, right? Like I think of business, it's like an ocean. Like there's going to be times where money is flowing. There's going to be times where it's flowing maybe a little less depending on the situation. So how do you show up in all seasons? To me, I think this should be totally separate. And I think that would be a really powerful way to look at this. The first thing that I would have you do is, if you were not concerned about paying bills, let's say money was flowing and you were in a good place, what would your business standards be? What would that look like? And then I would go ahead and apply as many of those standards as I possibly could to the best of my ability. Again, to me, when you believe and when you show up at a certain energy, you're going to receive that back. So that can only be helpful for you. So that's the first thing that I would do. And also, I feel like there might be, and she didn't say this in her question, but I'm kind of reading in between the lines. This might be a conversation on pricing and maybe even like the type of services you're providing. So let's say that is also kind of what she's asking. So for example, let's say she's asking, okay, I need to pay my bills and I'm trying to get away from the private coaching model, but the other models aren't working for me. So how do I raise those standards when I'm concerned about the bills? So let's say like that was the question. Well, to me, you could just decide overnight, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, right? You could decide overnight, no more private coaching. I'm only going to a more scaled model, but then you'll be able to have to hold that energy until those results start flowing at the way that makes sense for you. You can go that way, or you can kind of ease into it. So maybe this could look like you take on less private clients, or maybe you do bump your prices up and introduce other offers, or maybe some hands-on offers that are also group. I found, because I totally fell into the trap at a point in my business where I thought people only wanted private coaching and that's all that they were willing to buy. But when I personally saw the power of a close proximity mastermind or a hybrid model that includes maybe some private and some group, I saw, wait, I actually think that's more valuable. And when I really understood that, I was able to sell it more magnetically. I got more people to try it. And now I have plenty of clients that understand the value of a hybrid model because of that. So you can kind of ease into it. But the big thing here that I want you to pay attention to is I want you to check your business beliefs or check your beliefs around this. What are you making yourself available for in terms of paying clients, in terms of paying your bills? And why is that the only thing that you're letting yourself be available for? It's likely because you have a story around what's possible or maybe what other people want. And there's something that's making that funky for you. So I would check your beliefs. What are you available for? And if it's not ultimately what you want, what is the underlying belief there that is keeping that standard low? So if you want to raise your prices, but you're concerned people won't pay them, well, there's the work that we need to do. Because you can find examples in businesses and people that charge the full spectrum of prices. And for some reason, you're telling yourself that that's not possible for you. If it's possible for one person, it's possible for you. But the reason why that's working for them is because they believe that it's possible. Hence, they follow them. They set the standard. They hold the standard. And they're an example of that standard because they don't have any dissonance there. And they're able to hold that energy. Okay. The next question is, everybody talks about high ticket selling like it is easy, but it has not been for me. What am I missing? I get this. So here's what I've found from working with so many business owners and also just like seeing my own example across many different seasons of business. I've been in business since 2018. So I've experienced so many sides of the spectrum. And what I have found is for a lot of business owners, it's easy to be confident on one side, to be more confident on one side of the spectrum than maybe the other side of the spectrum. For example, there are people out there who have zero confidence or very little confidence when it comes to selling high ticket offers. And then the opposite is also true. There are many examples out there of people who are very practiced at the art of selling lower ticket offers, but when it comes to selling higher ticket, they struggle. But then believe it or not, there are actually people out there who are really practiced at selling high ticket and struggle selling lower, more scaled offers. This is actually something that I used to struggle with because when I started growing my business, the popular model at the time was a more private one-to-one type of business. So because that's kind of what everybody did, that's what I offered. Of course, I charge a certain amount for that. I practiced it so much, I got really good at it. But then when I went to sell something lower ticket and more scaled, I noticed that it wasn't as easy for me. So is the reason why that wasn't easy for me because people don't want lower ticket or scaled offers? No, of course not. It just depends on what the offer is. But what I found is typically people that don't see selling something or a certain price point as easy as maybe another price point or another type of offer is because they don't get the results as fast or as easy as they thought. So then they tend to go back to what they know, which reinforces that narrative, right? So like there was a season where I was trying to scale my business from less private, less high ticket, less high touch, which I was so uber confident in. And when I shifted that up, there was, of course, a season where my audience kind of needed to get used to that. But also, I know for sure it was harder to sell because my confidence wasn't there. I had sold myself this narrative. It's easy for me to sell high ticket because that's what people want and that's what people value. That's the story that I told myself. So anytime I would go to sell lower ticket, there was that belief in the back of my mind that was like, yeah, but everybody wants higher touch. So this isn't going to be as easy to sell. And that's the experience I would get. It felt harder because that's what I was looking for in a lot of ways. So then instead of holding the energy and keeping at it and getting better at selling lower ticket and building my belief and people wanting lower ticket offers, I reverted back to selling higher ticket. And I would just reinforce. So there's no universal offer that's universally easier for people to sell. There are people that sell $1 million offers like breathing air, truly. And then there are people out there that sell millions of $5 offers like breathing air. And then there's examples of every single thing in between. So the issue isn't the offer, it's your belief. It's the thought. Everybody talks about selling high ticket like it's easy, but that hasn't been the case for me. That's fine. But what's the story that we're telling here? And this is actually, for all of these questions that we're covering in this episode, this is the underlying theme for every single one of these. Spoiler alert, is there some sort of story that's being told? So I would look into, what are you telling yourself about high ticket selling? What are you telling yourself about your current audience? I know for a lot of the women that I've worked with, a lot of them are like, yeah, but my audience doesn't want to invest a certain amount. I have a certain type of buyer in my audience. I need a new audience. Bullshit. That is absolutely not true. But if you keep telling yourself that, then why would you show up to an audience and try and sell them something if deep down you thought that they were only low ticket buyers? You're selling your audience short. You're belittling your own audience. And I know you don't mean to do that, but that's what you're doing. You've typecast them and generalized them. So you're naturally not going to try and sell high ticket with your full ass, with your full energy, which is going to keep reinforcing this narrative in your mind. So my advice for you is to ask yourself, what would you need to believe to be able to be open to the reality that selling high ticket could be easy? Start practicing that belief, start looking for that, and then create some high ticket offers that you're certain of the value, that you're super excited to sell and to be the host of, to facilitate, and then fully commit to selling it until they're sold out. Like fully commit and practice proving this to yourself for high ticket too. There are whales in every single audience, but we don't see them because we don't sell to them and we're not practiced at looking for them because we have this belief that they're not there or that there's something about us and our brand where people don't want to buy high ticket. And that is a lie. Next question. What if my audience just doesn't see me as, quote, that person that they want to buy from? Again, bullshit. Bullshit. What do you mean? You mean every single person in your audience who's following you, by the way, just doesn't see you as somebody that they would buy from? Then why would they be following you? And even if you had, like, let's say you had a personal account and now you're selling something. So there's a difference there. Okay, and people don't buy things because of the person that's selling it in a lot of cases. People don't buy things that they don't want to buy. That's it. So I would bet if you were to really look at this, this is more of an offer issue than a you issue. I can guarantee you, because nobody sees something and is like, wow, I want that really bad, but unfortunately it's her that's selling it. So no, thank you. They just wouldn't be following you, you know? Like that's not a thing. Maybe it is for a couple of people, maybe a couple of haters that might be following you, but across the board, even if you have 100 followers, even if you have 50 followers, that is absolutely 100% not the case. But if you keep telling yourself this story, you are going to show up less and you are going to keep reinforcing this belief. This is a problem. It is you that is the problem in this situation. So the first question that I would have yourself ask is, why do you think that's so? If there was a reason your audience doesn't see you as, quote, that person that they want to buy from, why? Any reasons that come up, I want you to write them down. This is your work that you need to do. Now, if there are things that come up that are legit, for example, let's say one of the things that you wrote on there is because you actually aren't the expert at the thing that you're selling. You're actually not confident in the thing that you're offering. This is a red flag for you. This is something that you get to address. Okay, that's the first thing that we need to handle. Because if you think they're thinking that, it's because there's something in you that also thinks that. That needs to be addressed. That's huge. Okay? Maybe the reason is because you're super inconsistent and you show up maybe a week or two here and then you disappear and you do other things and then you come back trying to act like an online business owner, trying to act like the expert. Okay, that's something to address. So this could bring up some very valid standards that you get to address and set for yourself, which could be very, very powerful. So if there are reasons why, what are they? Address the ones that make sense, but then we have to fix the dialogue that's going on in your head so that you show up differently. Because if every time you go into your stories, you're showing up and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, nobody wants this. Nobody's taking me seriously. Nobody looks at me as the person that they want to buy from. Well, your stories are going to suck. That is 100% going to affect your energy. It's going to affect how you show up. It's going to affect your confidence. It's going to affect what you say. And that is going to affect how people see you. That's a problem, right? Like when I'm buying anything, if I don't feel like the person selling it is confident, that's going to be a red flag to me. So then I won't want to buy from them. But it's not a personal thing. It's something about their energy is off. Fix that in your energy. You will see different results in your experience, probably overnight, probably like that. I guarantee it. And then finally, the last question that we have today, very similar vibes, these questions. How do I get out of my own way? I know I have potential, but something keeps blocking me. That thought alone is blocking you. The belief that there is a block creates a block, right? Like if you were driving down a road and you fully believe there was going to be an obstruction in that road coming up, you would not keep driving down that road. You would turn around, you would shift your actions in some way, correct? Same thing here. And a lot of people really do. Like this is you getting in your own way. You nailed that part. The question, how do I get out of my own way, is the correct question because this 100% is a you issue, which is really nice because as soon as we clean this up, you get out of your own way. You get to stop telling yourself that there is a block. The thought that there is a block creates a block. And the reason why is because your beliefs affect your thoughts, affect your feelings, affect the actions that you do or don't take. So the belief that there's a block is going to infiltrate itself down to the actions that you do or don't take. You're probably going to show up less. You're probably going to show up less confidently. You're probably not going to play as big as you actually want to play or that you could play. You're just going to limit yourself. This is a complete and utter limited way of thinking and being. So the first thing that I would have you ask yourself is, are there ways that you are getting in your way? Like other ways besides just the thought that there's a block, which is very limiting. That's going to do some damage in and of itself. What else comes up for you? So if I said, hey, tell me right now how you're getting in your own way, there are going to be things that come up. So for some people, it might be like, I procrastinate way too much. I allow myself to get distracted. I put things off. And then the next thing you know, a week has turned into a month, has turned into a freaking year. Okay, write that shit down. What are other ways that you get in your own way? I severely lack what I'm capable of. Okay. Powerful. What are other ways that you get in your own way? I get hyper fixated on my competition or other people in my industry to the point that it makes me not want to show up at all because then I just feel bad about what it is that I'm doing. Okay. Yeah. These are ways that you are absolutely getting in your own way. So let's make a game plan for those. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to be so real, and this is what I needed to do for myself. Y'all, we are big girls. We are adults. We need to stop babying ourselves. I'm sorry, but this whole how do I get out of my own way? I feel so lost. I feel so we can all relate to that. But at the end of the day, fucking get over it. Move or don't, but you have every ounce of power in you to make a change today. This whole I get distracted and I compare myself and I do this and I do that can be true, but you are an adult. Fix it. Fix it. Download the Opal app. Get one of those block things. If you are getting so distracted that you're losing days, that is a you issue that you can handle today. Today. If you keep comparing yourself, you need to unfollow people or mute people on social media. If you keep talking down about yourself, what are some standards? There's something there that is allowing you to look at yourself as less than others. That is absolutely within your control. We need to take some responsibility here. And I'm speaking from experience, because there were so many times and seasons in my own life where I was kind of looking for a savior and I was looking for somebody to feel bad for me. And I was looking for oh, maybe I have this issue. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's generational trauma. Maybe it's my ancestors. Maybe God just doesn't want me to win right now because no, bitch. It's because you are telling yourself a story that's very limiting. And instead of shifting that and actually changing your behavior, you're making this long, ridiculous story in your mind that is keeping you staying still and stuck. That's what's happening. I had to have this come to Jesus moment for myself. We are adults. Move. If the actions that you're taking aren't getting you where you want to go, change the actions. That's on us. Nobody else can do that for us. That's on us. So the second that you start taking responsibility for your life, for your business, and you kind of be a little tough with yourself. Sometimes we need a little tough love from ourselves. Sometimes you need to kind of give yourself a little bit of an ass whooping. No, you don't get to scroll social media until 10 o'clock at night. You did not earn that shit. No, you do not get to go out and have fun with your friends because you dicked around all week and you did nothing in your business that you said you were going to do. Ground yourself. Whatever it's going to take to get you to move. And I say this from experience, because when you do this and you do increase those standards and you hold yourself to them, you will not only get different results, you're actually going to start making moves and moving in your business. That is going to increase your confidence. That is going to change the way that you see yourself, which will further infiltrate down into your feelings, your thoughts, and your behaviors. That is going to allow you to create a level of momentum, which is going to create consistency, which is what grows your business. But this whole how do I get out of, and I'm not picking on this person. I'm picking on the old version of myself. I'm picking on all of us who fall into this self-limiting, self-loathing trap. We have the keys to the fucking cage. Let yourself out of the cage. That's on us. That is fully what we came here to discover. That we are the ones who are designed and have the power to set ourselves free. But you have to, at some point, get tired of the bullshit. You have to get tired of being in the same place. For me, it took me going almost a year, getting to the end of the year, looking back and realizing I had overthought most of the year. I had procrastinated most of the year. I barely moved. I barely took action because of my own fear and because of my lack of beliefs. And also perfectionism. And I vowed that year, I didn't celebrate New Year's Eve that year. I was so mad at myself. And I was like, I will never feel this way at the end of a new year ever again. Ever again. Because I didn't do a quarter of the things that I said I was going to do. When you become the woman who does what she says she's going to do, there is a level of energy, power, magnetism, and undeniability that comes with that vibe. A lot of people lack that because they say they're going to do something, they say they want to do something, and then they don't do it. And it's not that other people notice that and are paying attention and are keeping score. You are. And the more that you stop or you keep saying and talking a big game, but then not backing it up with action, it is eating away at your confidence and your own self-belief. But the only prescription to that, the only answer to that is doing and changing it up. And you get to do it like that. You get to make that change instantly. Not tomorrow, today, right this second. I know this by experience. So as a matter of fact, on that note, I was doing a coaching call the other day and I had alluded to my own business evolution and how I had grown my own business and how I had shifted from one business to another. And I was talking about different pivots and how I went from a -$5,000 in profit for a year. That was the year that I was it was a bad year. I went from that to 6 figures in 6 months. And somebody on the call was like, do you have a podcast where you tell your story? Because I would really love to hear that story in depth. And I've told the story a bunch and I allude to it and I talk about it in spurts, but it has been a hot minute since I have shared my story and also since I've shared it from the perspective that I have today in real time. So in the next episode that you're going to be hearing, I'm going to be retelling my story in terms of this business and how I got it off the ground and how I overcame taking Adderall every single day just to get through the workday and firing all my clients after I made $200 and then struggling for months, not sure if it was going to work, to hitting 6 figures in 6 months and then making a huge pivot a year after that. And I'm going to get all into it. So if that interests you, well, that can be something that you look forward to next week. So again, I know that I kind of went there today and I was a little harsh with a few things, but I'm speaking again, truly from experience, truly from a deep place of resonance and empathy, because I've been where you are. And I wish that I had somebody be a big sister to me and tell myself, just snap out of it. You don't need to spend 6 months doing inner work and shifting new beliefs. Like, you can do that if you want to, but it's not necessary. Sometimes all we need to do is just snap the hell out of it and change our behavior. And that doesn't mean that overnight all of your behavior has to change, but you can start with one behavior and then layer another one and hold yourself accountable, right? Like, if you can do things like 75 hard or weekly challenges, which I know all of us have done here and there, you can do the same thing in your business. Set some new standards and give it a month and see how different not only your results are, but your inner thoughts and beliefs are as well. Okay. If this was helpful for you, please let us know. Comment on the YouTube video. Let me know if you have any questions or topics that you want me to dive into. Otherwise, I will see you here next week. Bye.